Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Get Good at OpenRCT Tycoon 2. In this episode I'll be showing you how to make stuff in RCT Tycoon 2 invisible. Now you may be wondering, why would I want to make stuff invisible? Well, so first I'll show you some examples of some neat tricks I did by making stuff invisible in the map. So first off, we have this map, which is a submission for a challenge we had in our Discord. And as you can see, we have these rockets flying around. It looks like they're just flying around in the air, but in fact they're on invisible track. You can see it if I turn on the height markers. You can see that they're actually following a track. Also, the guests, they appear to be walking on a roller coaster track, but in fact I just made the path they're walking on invisible, and I just put a track under it so it appears like they're walking on it. Alright, let's show some other tricks. Now this is another park I once worked on for a while. As you can see here, we have a go-kart track here, and most of the track has been made invisible, and this way it appears as if the go-karts are driving on a dirt track. Here you can see them drive around. I made a small bridge here. Here they continue on a dirt track. Also, on the outside rim of the park, you can see some monster trucks speeding around, and even making a small jump here. They're speeding around the park. And also they're on an invisible track here, but it looks like they're just driving around on the terrain, which is one of the neat tricks you can do with by making stuff invisible. Right, here we have another park that I once made for a challenge. As you can see, we have guests again walking around on an invisible path. I replaced it actually with a flying saucer track. I'll show you how to do this in a later video. Other than that, we have the jet skis here, which appear to be moving around randomly, but when I turn height markers, you can see that they're actually following a track on the water, and they will all move the same path. Just a way to make them move farther away from the station while still making it look random, and also making sure they can find their way back to the station. Also, I made this boat ride which transports guests from the station to the platform. You can see it go under the platform here. Also, this is done with an invisible track. Then we have this ride here. It's sort of a rescue boat. So here it follows a small piece of track, and after that it just jumps down into the water. Here you can see it go again. Jumps down into the water, then just goes along the water and back into the station under the platform. Also, you can see the lifeboats here next to the ship. These are actually submarines, and again these were done with an invisible track. Just a piece of station here with an invisible track, and they spawned on it, and now it just looks like they're hanging here alongside the platform. Now let's move to the next map. This is another big park I once worked on. You can see lots of vehicles flying around on an invisible track here. See rockets, there's jet planes flying around, there's hover bikes flying around. There's a hover bike. Again, these were all done with invisible track, just so it appears they're flying around. Yeah, there's a lot of them all around the map. And I think this is a really cool effect you can achieve with this. Now here's another different trick I did. Let me turn on the cutaway view so make it a bit more visible. There we go. Ah, the ride is actually broken down. Let me fix that. So, right, stable breakdowns. Alright, well here you can see a card track, minecart going. Follows the track nicely. And there you have it. It makes a jump. Another one. It doesn't actually jump because there's still track here, but I've hidden the track using a trick to make the track invisible. This is another one of those cool tricks you can do with by making tracks pieces invisible. Alright, now I'll show you how to actually achieve this effect. There's two ways to make a track invisible. I will show both of them to you. For a start, let's quickly make a track. There we go. Just make a small chain lift. There we go. Now let's make a looping. Let's make another looping. And we'll make some breaks. Breaks. And that's it. Let's make a path. There we go. Let's make it one train. Alright, there's two ways to make track pieces invisible. The first one is by using corrupt elements. To use corrupt elements, we have to open the tile inspector. If these cogwheels don't show for you, you have to enable the tile inspector in options. And then here is under the wrench icon, you have to enable debugging tools. It's this option. So we open up the tile inspector, we click a track piece, we click the track piece, and then we press this button, which inserts a corrupt web element. And there we go. The track piece looks invisible. It's gone. And it vanishes into thin air. Well, of course, to make a track invisible this way would take quite some work, because you have to click all the track pieces and do this for all of them, which is quite a lot. Especially in the curves, there's actually many pieces you'll have to make invisible this way. So this will be quite some work, but the good thing about this technique is that all your coaster stats will stay the same. The chain lift will still make sound. But yeah, as I said, it's a lot of work. Another downside of this method is that when you delete the coaster, the corrupt elements will still be in their place. So when you put an item on the, well, they're hard to find. Now I placed a building here on this spot where the corrupt element is, and as you can see, some of the parts of the building were made invisible because the corrupt element is still in this place. So when you make part of a coaster invisible using this trick, you should always first delete the corrupt elements to prevent other stuff becoming invisible after you remove the ride. The corrupt elements should be used when you only want to make a part of a coaster invisible, or when you don't want any alterations to the ride stats. Now I'll show you another trick to make a ride invisible. Well, I'll make a same coaster quickly. There we go. Small curve down. Make a loop. I'll make some. Oops. There we go. Not sure why I'm making this path, but okay. What is this? Alright, now the other way to make a track invisible is by using this cheat called Allow Arbitrary Ride Type Changes. If you enable it, you get a warning that the feature is currently unstable. It's because some track types will cause the game to crash. Now, when you select the coaster here, you can now see that it's a corkscrew roller coaster. Now, you can turn it into a different ride type if you want. For example, a log flume. Well, this is not a good example because most track pieces will become invisible because the log flume, for example, doesn't have any curved slopes or loopings. You can turn it into a stand-up roller coaster. By doing this, the ride stats will be calculated in a different way. So it does affect the behavior of the coaster. Now, in order to make it invisible, we'll have to use a track type that doesn't have any track pieces. And for that, for example, you can use a crooked house. Now, as you can see, the track is invisible and the cars will still continue like usual. Side effect of using the crooked house type for this is that the stats will become really low. So many guests will actually complain that the ride is not intense enough. The good thing about using crooked house is that the ride will never break down. So I typically use this when I want to have, for example, mine carts running around a park, or other rides that will not be ridden by peeps, but that are just there to look good. Another ride type that you can use is the Enterprise. This is also a popular one because, as you can see, your ride will get pretty good stats, and guests will definitely ride this. The bad thing about Enterprise is that they are not very reliable and will often break down. I typically use this when in a park. I have used the cheat that disables breakdowns. Now, my favorite type to use is the lift or elevator in American English. It will also turn your ride invisible, as you can see. And the good thing about using the lift to make rides invisible is that, well, as you can see, it gets low stats. It doesn't always do that. But the good thing about the lift is that it's classified as a transport ride. So any guest who happens to walk into the line, regardless of preferred intensity, for example, intensity is now 0.37. This guy likes between 2 and 5, which is higher than 0.37. Less than 3. Oh, come on. Yes, this gas has a preferred intensity of more than 4. The intensity of this ride is 0.37. But because the lift is classified as transport ride, all guests will ride it, regardless of preferred intensity, as you can see with this guest. Now, there are some downsides to using the arbitrary ride types cheat for making a ride invisible, because some track elements, like boosters, only work for certain track types and not for the lift, elevator, or the enterprise or crooked house. So if you have boosters on your invisible ride and you want to use them, then you shouldn't make your ride invisible using this type, but then you should use corrupt track elements, corrupt elements instead. Another thing that's not working correctly anymore when you change a ride type into lift is when you build go-karts and you make them invisible using the elevator or lift ride, then the carts wait really long before starting the ride. You may have seen this in the earlier park I showed you. Quickly open it. Where is it? Ah, there it is. As you can see, the go-karts are already full, but they will wait very long before actually starting. That's another side effect of changing this go-karts into an elevator. There's not really much you can do about it. I also doubt this is something that will get fixed, because the elevator ride type was not intended to be used to make rides invisible in the first place. It's just a side effect. Anyway, I hope this guide was useful to you, and if you have any questions, or if you cannot get it to work, just ask me a question in the comments. Alright guys, see you later in the next episode.